And you know what? Again, people love their community. This is people's homes. We have to remember that. But these buildings are very challenging to fix, and that's really why new buildings are important, but also having respect and input from the community here on things that they want to see, because I do realize, when you've lived here since 1976 in this apartment, Bill, and he's been here since 1965.
Since 65.
This is his community. This is his home, and he's like, we gotta support that and respect that, and make sure that we are building relationships with the community, and we're taking their input in order to create a better, healthier community. Because the other thing, let's take it back to, the violence that, has plagued this community, and just what people had to live through for so many years, and again, the neglect. We got to change that, and we got to change that with the community.
And the renovations kind of will help as a violence deterrent.
Yeah, the renovations, the supported services, and also the rebuild with the new units. It's really a combination of things that we can't do in isolation. We have to do all those things together.
And it'll help reduce crime and keep things safer.
Yeah, well, that's part of it, but also opportunity will help reduce crime. Making sure that we are working with young people now, making sure that we are working with the community now, that we provide job opportunities and career opportunities and advancement opportunities so that no one is left behind. So we have to bring the resources here.
No. Oh, I've had the roach people tell me termites. I've had the termites tell me it's carving ants. And
It's
carving ants.
some bug that's
Yeah,
eating
and
something.
then because they dig, I get spiders, I get
Yeah.
worms. I can't win.
Well, it's all going to be new soon. We're working on
Well,
it.
we need sooner rather than later.
That's why you're the mayor. Make it happen.
They can't wait 10 years for this.
I can't.
Right.
I'm
Make it
wrong.
happen.
Okay.
And so look at this. The grass is, yeah. But look at what the opportunity it is, and how many more units we can have, and how we can change the conditions, and the fact that people won't feel safe, and they have to put bars in their, windows, and just all of that. Nice. Wonderful. Thank you. So what you up to?
All right. Hello, Sunnydale. So excited to be here with each and every one of you. I'm sorry for those who we don't have chairs for. We didn't really expect a big crowd, but when you're talking about the city's budget, I guess everyone shows up, right? But I'm so glad to see the residents of Sunnydale here. Thank you all so much for being here today. And thank you to everyone who joined us on the tours earlier of the units. Today, we, of course, through those tours, saw the challenging conditions that people are living right here in this neighborhood, just a few miles from our thriving downtown, and yet a world apart. As someone who grew up in public housing, I've lived these conditions. I know these conditions, and I don't expect everyone to understand the challenges of public housing the way that I do, or the way that the residents of Sunnydale do, but I do expect everyone to put in the time to understand. I wanted department heads and our elected officials to come here and see for yourselves the hard work that we have to do. Thank you to everyone who joined me today, especially the members of the Board of Supervisors. And we have President of the Board of Supervisors, Norman Yee, with us. Thank you so much. Supervisor Sandra Lee Fewer, thank you so much for being with us. Supervisor Hillary Ronan, Supervisor Raphael Mandelman, and Supervisor Gordon Marr. And earlier we had Supervisor Aisha Safai, and he had to take off. Oh, you're still here, Supervisor? Well, why aren't you in your seat? All right. Today is not just about the investments we are making in our upcoming budget. It's also about the commitments behind those investments. Commitments to communities like Sunnydale. Commitments to San Franciscans who for far too long have been left behind. San Francisco is a city with a heart, but we also have to be a city with a memory. A memory not only for the commitments we've kept, but also the ones that we've failed to keep. For too long, Sunnydale and our public housing communities were one of those failed commitments. And we are changing that with our RAB programs, where we have rehabilitated over 2,500 public housing units. And through Hope SF, which is revitalizing and transforming communities in Huntersview and Alice Griffith and Potrel Hill and right here in Sunnydale, and with the reconstructing of a long overdue transformation of our San Francisco Housing Authority. We are building and rehabbing housing, creating stronger and healthier communities, and investing in the people who live there. We owe it to them to keep our commitments and to make a difference for this community and those across the city. And with every decision we make, I want to make sure that equity and accountability are at the forefront of our minds. We have to be focused on people in all neighborhoods, like the people who live here, who for too long have been living with broken pipes, with mold, with infestations, with dilapidated conditions. People like Brianna Frierson, a third-generation Sunnydale resident. Brianna and her three sisters grew up here, and they have lived through those conditions that you saw today. Despite these challenges, Brianna has become a leader in her community, and she is fighting for the next generation. She has not given up on this community, and Brianna, we will not give up on you. We have to be accountable to Brianna and the thousands of residents like her across our city who are living in public housing and our low-income communities. Our budget would be accountable to them, both by continuing our work to improve the conditions here and our continued commitment to provide funding to keep thousands of housing authority residents secure in their homes. Yes, Joyce Armstrong, and happy birthday. But also by recognizing that we need to do more to keep people in these neighborhoods safe and supported. For too long, Sunnydale was not a safe community. Families were torn apart by violence, by gunfire, by crime, by tragedy, by frustration. This community has lived with all that, which is why I wanted to come here. To acknowledge the past, yes, but also making a commitment to a better and brighter future. Making communities like Sunnydale safer isn't just about enforcing the laws and making sure we have more officers on our streets. It's about giving people opportunities and investing in changing people's lives. It's about interrupting the cycle of violence and despair that we have seen over and over again. That starts with doing more for our young people in this budget. And that includes investing in opportunities for all, so that the next generation has access to jobs and careers that transform their futures. Offering stipends to teachers who commit to teach in public schools facing those challenges. And fully funding free city college so that everyone has a path to higher education. We are expanding public health, recreation, and nutrition programs for kids, including mental health services to provide support for kids experiencing trauma so they can build up their lives and thrive. All of our young people, no matter where they live, should have access to the amazing opportunities that this city has to offer. And as we work to support the next generation, we also must do more to help those who sadly are living on our streets. In this budget, we are following through on our commitment to add 1,000 new shelter beds by 2020. We are also using our funding to create 820 new units of permanently supportive housing over the next 2 years. However, reducing homelessness means more than just creating places for people to go. We need to do more to prevent homelessness and keep people housed. This is why we are adding $5 million to increase homelessness prevention and diversion efforts. We are fully funding our tenants' right to counsel so every renter has a legal defense when they are threatened with eviction. And we are providing housing subsidies for transgender and gender nonconforming people who are 18 times likely to experience homelessness than the general population. We are also creating a new 5-year pilot program to provide rental subsidies for rent-burdened families and seniors to keep them secure in their housing so that rising rents don't force hundreds of people out of their home in the first place. With these commitments, we can keep people stable, keep them housed, and prevent homelessness from ever becoming a part of their life. We're also helping those with mental illness and substance use disorder by adding funding for an additional 100 new behavioral health beds. This includes 50 new beds at San Francisco General for homeless residents with mental health challenges and 50 beds specifically for those suffering from both mental health and substance use disorder. Combined with the 100 beds we already announced earlier this year, that means we are committing to 200 new beds for our most vulnerable residents. This is the most significant expansion of behavioral health beds in a generation. And, Chief Nicholson, we are also expanding our EMS 6 program, which is the fire department's emergency response crew that works with those who are suffering on our streets with mental health and substance use disorder issues. This funding will allow EMS 6 to provide coverage 24/7 so the city can be out there helping people every day of every minute. These are just some of the investments we are making to help our residents today. As we do this work, though, we have to be accountable to the next generation. We have to have vision and not lose sight of what's going to happen to San Francisco 10 and 20 years down the line. We know that the crises of those living on our streets isn't just about a place to rest indoors or access mental health care. It's all about housing. We all know that the cost of housing are too high. We also know that these challenges did not develop overnight, and it won't be fixed overnight. It's gonna take fundamental change. Let's start with increasing funding for affordable housing. And I'm proud to be working with so many members of the Board of Supervisors to place a $6 million affordable housing bond on this year's $600 million? Did I say 100? Oh, sorry. $600 million affordable house. Thank you, President Yee, for working with me on this. It will be on this year's ballot. This is the largest affordable housing bond in the city's history without raising property taxes. We are providing support not just for our low-income households and our seniors, but also for middle-income residents. We are also increasing investments in this budget to add over $140 million for the production and preservation of affordable housing, so we can buy more land, fully fund more projects, and preserve our much rare rent control housing stock. all in through this proposed affordable housing bond, our current budget, our previous ERAF spending, and other efforts, over the first year since I've been in office, we have identified $1 billion in new funding to build, preserve, and support affordable housing. Thank you for your help in building housing. This builds on top of the over $900 million that we already have committed to build and support affordable housing throughout our city. However, our support for housing can't just be about funding. If we are ever going to make a difference on housing, we have to make changes to how we build housing. And we can't fear solutions that make it easier and faster to build housing. If we say we support affordable housing, then our actions have to follow our values. We have to cut the red tape, the barriers, the bureaucracy, not just for some affordable housing projects, not just for some in-law units, and not just for some homeless shelters, but for all housing for everyone. And as we build, we must continue to expand our transportation system and infrastructure, especially to support outer neighborhoods like here in the Southwest. Every neighborhood in our city needs better and more reliable access to public transit, and they need better and safer streets. This budget adds $30 million to fund transit operations, including speeding up the purchase of new light rail trains and modernizing our train control system so we see fewer delays in our subways and so that we know that we can get to where we need to more faster and more reliably. We've also added $2.5 million additional dollars for Vision Zero improvement projects to make our streets safer. We have seen too many traffic-related deaths on our streets, and this funding will help us double the pace of our protected bike lane construction and make our streets safer for pedestrians on our most dangerous corridors. Through our capital plan, which we are fully funding, we will spend $130 million over the next 2 years to improve our roads. And I know this is going to get you excited. That means fewer potholes. And smoother rides for our buses and our bicyclists and our drivers. Yes, 6'4", you the one who given us the potholes. Our capital plan will also invest in strengthening our support for our cultural centers, our libraries, our health centers, our public safety facilities, and improving our parks and open space. We will also continue to support improvements to making neighborhoods cleaner, safer, and more vibrant. We are adding $12 million to our existing cleaning budget to expand our street cleaning in the Tenderloin, in Soma, and Chinatown. We're funding 80 more big belly trash cans, and we're adding 7 new pit stops, including expanding the hours so people can use the bathroom with dignity. This is on top of the $74 million that we spend every year to keep our streets clean. And not only are we going to invest money in keeping San Francisco clean, we all are going to play a role in making sure people know that we won't tolerate dirtying up our streets. We are supporting our plan to hire more police officers so we can get more officers out walking the beats in our neighborhoods. And continue our work with reducing violent crime, property crime, and auto break-ins in our city. We are committed to $9 million to support small businesses and commercial corridors, which builds on our work to streamline the bureaucracy that gets in the way of growing businesses. Our small business owners should be focused on serving their customers, not navigating the bureaucracy of City Hall. These are just some of the priorities we are funding in this budget. I'm proud of the investments we are making, and I'm proud of the city we are working to build. I really want to thank everyone who's put time into helping with this budget, including our budget team and the budget director, Kelly Kirkpatrick. Thank you so much, Kelly, for your hard work. And thank you to Ben Rosenfield as well from the Controller's Office and your work. Thank you to Harvey Rose and the budget analyst team, who's not going to touch any of the money that I'm proposing in the budget. You know, so many people have been working tirelessly day in and day out to get this budget done, and I'm so excited about this. I want to end by talking about a young man named Wallace Paulette. How you doing, Wallace? We are so proud. We are so proud of Wallace. You know, life hasn't been easy for him. He grew up amongst the violence that I talked about earlier. He faced some challenging times, including his own challenges with the law. And unlike so many others we lost to violence or the criminal justice system, Wallace worked his way through all of those challenges. And he's now focusing on doing what's right, including raising his daughter right here in Sunnydale. Now, just down the hill from here is a construction site. It's the first new building being constructed here at Sunnydale as a part of Hope SF. It is a bright sign for the future of this incredible and resilient community. Wallace is a member of this construction team. He is building up this beautiful new community with his hands and with his heart. He is being accountable to himself, his daughter, and his community. He's being accountable to the next generation so that they have a Sunnydale where they can grow, live, and thrive. He is building a better San Francisco. And I'm committed to this community because people like Wallace are committed to this community. I'm committed to this community because people like Brianna are committed to this community. And as we leave Sunnydale here today, let us remember our job is to be accountable to everyone in this city and not just those who have time to show up and advocate at City Hall. We have to be there for those who have hope, those who need hope. This budget is a part of our commitments and represents the very best of our values in this city. By keeping those commitments, we can and we will build a stronger, more resilient San Francisco, a city not just for some, but for all San Franciscans. Thank you all so much for being here today.